Hello, everybody. You're listening to Startup Secrets for Entrepreneurs, and I'm your host, Shelby Oleschlager. Our mission here is to help entrepreneurs make a difference and navigate the messy world of startup or relaunch. Join me today where we dig deep with our guests to give you the best concepts and strategies to fast track your business. Today, our special guest is Deborah Fryer. So, Deborah, first of all, thank you so much for joining us today on the show. And to get started, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Thanks so much for inviting me to join you. So, I am a mindset coach and I help my clients reconnect to those parts of themselves where they go dark. Now, this will show up in money conversations when you're having an enrollment conversation, when you're handling objections, when you're breaking through a financial ceiling, the first time you have a six-figure leap in a day and your nervous system will freak out. And then you will do everything to kind of sabotage it. And we need to clear these old mental conditions that we operate from so that we can really thrive and move into our most prosperous, abundant, delightful, creative selves. I believe that being an entrepreneur is a spiritual path, and we are bushwhacking one step at a time into the true heart of who we are beyond our conditioning.
That's so beautifully said, and it is so powerful. And I fully agree that entrepreneurial journey is all the self growth, and we uncover or we face all these things that are really slowing us down, and we realize that it's all us, like you said, our conditionings and everything, and our own sabotage. So I find that really awesome that you bring that up. So let's backtrack a little bit to the beginning or the earlier stage. What was it like for you starting this company, and where did this inspiration come from?
Well, like many spiritual creative entrepreneurs, I believed that I'm spiritual and therefore I'm better than money. I thought I'm spiritual. I don't need money. I thought I can just meditate. At first I was a wantrepreneur. So I wanted money, but every bone in me, every cell in me was hell bent against it because I thought money was trashing the environment. I thought money was in the hands of people who were jerks, who were misogynists, who were manipulative, who were totally corrupt, and I wanted nothing to do with it. So I rejected money because I had these beliefs that only those kinds of people had money. Now, of course, nothing could be farther from the truth. And everyone who's listening, you're a good person, so you should have money flowing through your hands. Money is a tool, and it is not relegated only to a certain quality of person. It is available to all of us. In fact, right now, it's flowing through every one of us electronically, right? Most money flowing on the planet is flowing around electronically. So I first was a wantrepreneur. I said I wanted it, but subconsciously I actually didn't want it because I didn't want to be one of those people. And then, excuse me, then I became a mantrapreneur. So I'm a yogi, I'm a meditator. So I used mantra and I just chanted a lot. I went on a lot of yoga retreats and I didn't make very much money. In those days, I was making about $1,000 a month. And so I would put it on a credit card and I would go off and I'd meditate and I'd feel really great for 7-10 days while I was meditating. And then I'd come back to the air quote real world. And I feel like I fell through the cracks and it wasn't working. So even though I was chanting mantra for 10 days, under the covers, the mantras I was chanting the rest of my life were things like, this never works for me. What's wrong with me? Why can't I figure this out? And I say this because if you're not paying attention to the mantras that are replaying on loop in your head, you are unconsciously programming yourself into a lot of negative self-talk. And we all do it unconsciously. And one of my missions is to help people become conscious so that you can create what you want when you want at will. You don't have to wait around for something outside of you to happen so that you can be at peace, happy, joyful, confident, etc.
Mhm.
So I went from wantrepreneur to mantrapreneur. And along the lines of me being a mantrapreneur, when I was a yogi and a spiritual person, I had this realization. It was incorrect, but at the time it felt true. I had this realization that I should go to medical school. I have a PhD from Princeton in comparative literature, and I was so used to disqualifying myself and discounting myself that the mantra in my head was, you're not a real doctor, that doesn't count. And as I share this story, and I get asked this a lot on podcasts, I have such compassion for this younger version of me who so didn't value the work and the education and the effort that I went through. I mean, I loved my time in graduate school and I have a kick-ass degree, and I was so ashamed of my degree. In fact, I was told by people, you should take your PhD off your resume. You're too smart. Nobody wants to work with you. And, a lot of people who have imposter syndrome struggle with this, where they feel like I'm too smart. I don't want to intimidate people. And newsflash, y'all, you are as brilliant as you are. And if other people are intimidated by you, that's their problem. Do not dim your light so that
Mhm.
other people feel okay about who they are. But I did that. I did dim my own light because it was important for me at the time that other people feel okay. So I made me feel not okay so they would
Mhm.
feel okay. So then I went off to medical school because I thought if I go to medical school, I'll have a real degree, I'll have a real paycheck, I'll have real respect. And in the middle of this path, I found myself holding a human heart in my hands. I was working in an anatomy lab, and it just so happened that the day before, my beloved father dropped dead of a massive heart attack. And I had to go into the anatomy lab because it was my job at the time and remove a human heart from a cadaver who was a man. And this human heart I was holding in my hands, this man had also died of a massive coronary. And I'm
Mhm.
standing there holding a heart in my hands, and tears are streaming down my face. And I'm feeling the weight of the heart, and I can see exactly where I went wrong. Because the movement of the heart is to expand, to contract, to fill, and to empty, to take in new and to release the old. And it is this constant pulsation of life force that is moving through every cell of you, every organ of you. It's moving through the heart. It is where you intimately exchange with the environment. And I realized in that moment that I had been running my business completely counter to the laws of nature, completely counter to the laws of biology and physics and chemistry. I was only expanding, right? I was in this very expanded spiritual state, but I never came to earth. I never dealt in the material realm. I never honored myself as a human being doing things that humans do. And I was so disconnected from my body. I was still living in my head and not honoring all the rest of me. And everything changed when I held the heart in my hands in the anatomy lab. I realized I was not operating my life or my business in a way that was sustainable. And if I didn't change, I was going to have a massive coronary just like my dad. So everything shifted in my business, everything. And the way that it shifted was I walked out of the anatomy lab that day. And I looked at the trees. It was an October day in Colorado. This was in 2013. And the sky was bright, bright blue, and the aspens were this incredible gold, and the wind was making the leaves shimmer. And I remember looking at the trees and saying, how do you do it? How do you transform in a way that's so inspiring and beautiful and majestic? How do you just drop it without all the drama, without the attachment? And the trees said, watch us, we'll teach you. And I took that to heart. I sat on my meditation cushion for 6 months. I realized nature's not productive 24/7. Why did I think I'm supposed to be productive 24/7? I had been pulling all-nighters for pro bono clients. So, this was like triple injury. I wasn't charging them. I wasn't recharging my own batteries. And I wasn't allowing myself to receive the value I was giving. And I just got this, huge flash, this download of, Deborah, you cannot live your life like that. So I brought it to my meditation cushion. I journaled, I cried, I meditated, I went for long walks, I did a lot of EFT tapping, and slowly my nervous system began to reset. And for me to learn, it's safe for me to relax.
Mhm.
It's safe for me not to be hypervigilant. It's safe for me not to be in angst all the time. It's safe for me not to be desperate. And 6 months after I began this practice of really serious devotion to my meditation practice, the phone rang. It was a prior client, a film client. In those days, I was a documentary filmmaker. And the client called and they said, "Hey, Deborah, we have," and they shared what the budget was. And the amount in the budget was 10 times what it had been a year before when I'd been working for them. I'm the same person, they're the same company. And they came to me and they said, "Hey, we've got a budget 10 times bigger. Can you help us make a movie for this amount of money?" And I said, "Yes, I can help you." And then another client came, same deal. It was a previous client. And the client said, "I've got a budget 10 times bigger than it was when we last worked with you." And I didn't do any marketing. I didn't do anything about raising my prices. I didn't do anything external. All of it was inner work. And I realized that when I cleared all the brambles, I cleared all my resistance, that the flow that is here all the time, it just started flowing big time. So that's how it happened for me. And it wasn't pretty. I do not wish upon anyone that you have to lose a beloved, in order for you to wake up. But that's what it took in my case.
Wow, what a powerful story. And you can tell just like the raw emotion, you closing your eyes, really reliving it and bringing that emotion to the surface. And I definitely felt that inside myself just listening to the story. So I really appreciate you sharing that. So now that, you found this change, was there that moment where you just really clicked, like, I need to start teaching this to other people? And how did that process begin?
That's such a great question. So I still was separating, okay, there's the spiritual me and there's the scientific me, because I was making my money as a documentary filmmaker, making films about the environment. So I'm making films about climate change,
Mm,
and I'm talking to, computer scientists who do supercomputing, and they make these visualizations and it's super complicated. And I'm talking to chemists and physicists, and I barely understand what they're talking about, but I make beautiful movies. I'm able to synthesize it and translate it into language that everyone can understand. We all share one envelope of air that we're breathing from. We all
mm,
live on this one beautiful blue globe. And so it was really clear to me that I was a great translator, but I
mm,
didn't want them to know that I do all this weird stuff, that I meditate and I chant and I tap and I do all these, things that aren't, air quote, scientifically scientifically validated. And they are now. EFT tapping is quite mainstream. Meditation, mindfulness practices are quite mainstream. And corporations and boardrooms are realizing this will actually increase the productivity, it will increase the retention, it will increase the happiness, it will
mm,
increase the leadership and the teamwork of our communities. But 10 years ago, it wasn't
mm,
as well accepted as it is now. So I kept those things really separate. So I was teaching meditation at my local yoga studio. And I was going into my local yoga studio and I would give free talks about the mind, body, money connection. And clients would come to me that way. And they would come and learn from me that way, but I didn't yet have a coaching program. So one day I was teaching a meditation class, and someone who was in the class followed me into the parking lot, and she said, "What have you been doing? You're so different." And I said, "Oh, nothing." I didn't really feel like I could talk about it. And she said, "Will you coach me?" And I said, "No, I don't do that. I just teach meditation." So the next week, she comes back to the meditation class. She follows me into the parking lot again. And she says, "I've lived across the street from you for 10 years, and there's something about you that is different. I want to know what it is. I want whatever you're having. Will
mm,
you be my mentor?" And I said, "I don't have any private clients. I don't do that." And she said, "Now you do." That's really how it started. I was very under the radar. I was just doing my thing. I was just being me. And
mm,
the energy coming off of me, people feel it and they want to know, what are you on? My own brain chemistry. I help myself liberally to the pharmacy in my own mind, and I'm 100% in control of it.
mm.
So I cultivate these states of peacefulness, presence, kindness, joy, delight, and it's pretty fun. And it's also pretty rare. in the entrepreneurial world, in the startup world, we're talking to a bunch of startup people, right? Like stress is what you drink. That's the Kool-Aid they serve. And you are so much more powerful when you're coming from a place of grounded, clear presence.
Hmm. I'm curious. So it just seemed to have a natural start for you. And I'm assuming you overcame that mental block that you were facing after, you said 6 months of meditating on it, and all of a sudden these jobs are coming up. Were you already like making money in that way? Or I'm trying to get to like the scarcity mindset because I feel like a lot of people might feel that. So how
Right.
would someone overcome when they don't have the money to like they want it, but they don't want to be attached necessarily?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So I was still working as a filmmaker. And when I first started clearing the inner path to wealth, which is really, I believe it's an inner path to wealth, that wealth is always flowing through us. And when we clear our resistance to it, when we clear our objection to it, it's there. Rumi says, your task is not to seek for love, but all the barriers you've built up against it. It's the same with abundance, with prosperity, with money, with wealth. It's naturally flowing all the time. And we receive it to the degree that we're willing to see ourselves as someone who has that.
Mm.
So I was working as a filmmaker in the first year of this revelation that, oh, I have to receive in order to build a sustainable business. I can't work for free. I can't undercharge. I have to receive. I have to charge for what I'm offering. My business increased 500%. And then I realized I was onto something. So then this first client came up and said, I want to be your private client. So she was a private client. I still was working as a filmmaker. I still didn't trust that I could replace my filmmaking income with something else. And I'd been making films for many, many years, and I love it. And I still love it. Uh, so I began to recognize when I was sitting in meditation, oh, the earth, water, fire, air, ether that is in every element and everything, it's moving through me right now. And we're all making movies on the screen of our mind. And I'm right now touching my brow, the third eye. We're all projecting images of ourselves onto the screen of our minds. And when we change the movie, when we change the role we're playing in the movie, I realized, oh, I can take all of my filmmaking skills into a, a coaching offering. I can help people realize it's your movie. You are the location consultant. You're the script writer. You're the wardrobe designer. You're playing all the roles in the movie. What role do you always play? What role do you want to play instead? And if you're the hero of the movie, I guarantee you, this comes straight from Aristotle, if you're the hero of the movie, you're going to have a big bad challenge or a villain or an obstacle or something super scary that's going to stretch you so that you can grow into, the big, magnificent, victorious one that you are. You're going to go from victim to victorious in your role in the movie. So if you see that you're the victim right now, the good news is it's because the victorious one is inside the victim, and the root is the same. Victim and victorious, the root is the same. And the root of that word is conquer.
Mm.
So there's a line from Japji, one of the prayers that I chant a lot. And that line is, when you conquer your mind, you conquer the world. When you are in control of your perception of how you see things, everything looks different. The world is not the way it is, it's the way you see it. And we all see things differently. So I help my clients really shift how they see themselves in relation to money, how they see themselves in relation to power. So I worked as a filmmaker and I started having private clients. So my first year in my business, uh, within 5 months of me hiring a business coach, I broke six figures for the first time as a filmmaker, not as a coach, as a filmmaker. I'm still working as a filmmaker. So I broke this financial ceiling. I really wanted to break six figures, and I did it in 5 months, not in a year. So I did it way faster than I thought I was going to do. And I freaked out. I threw up for 3 days. I had a migraine for 3 days. I thought, oh my God, I'm such a piece of crap. Nobody's going to want to be my friend. I'm supposed to be this artist, and all of a sudden I'm making money, and I'm such a jerk, and I'm such an a-hole, and who do I think I am? And I really had to deal with this next level of, that's not okay. That's not okay. And I'd be like, yes, it is. No, it's not.
Mm.
I'd be having this internal argument. And I would also be doubting, like, this didn't really happen. And then I'd look at my bank account and I'd see that it did. And I'd be like, yeah, but that's just a fluke. It's not going to happen again. And my clients all go
Mm.
through this. It's just a fluke. When is the other shoe going to drop? Oh, it doesn't really count, right? I was still using the same script that I'd been using when I went to medical school. Oh, that doesn't really count. I don't really count, right?
Mm.
And so then I didn't make any money for 3 months. Why? Because I didn't want to have to feel those feelings. Like, who am I going to be? Not only did I make six figures in 5 months, but what if I make 200,000 in 10 months? I'm really not gonna be able to stand myself. So and we all go through this. It is totally normal wherever you are on your entrepreneurial path, whether you're going from 0 to 100K or 100 to 500K, or you've crossed the 500K line and you're on your way to seven figures, it does not matter. Each time you expand a little bigger and then you're gonna contract, because that's the natural thing. You cannot be in an expanded state. This is what the heart taught me. You've got to contract. So you're going to have a big expansion and then you're going to contract. And your nervous system will have to recalibrate. It's going to take time, because if you've got an identity of yourself as a starving artist, as I did, and then all of a sudden I created some evidence that I'm not that, my ego is up for a fight.
Mm.
I just broke a big law with myself. I've been walking around for 40 something years saying I'm a starving artist. I don't make any money. And all of a sudden I did. Now what? Now who am I? Now I am in this void of, I don't know who I am. And people get scared. Totally normal. Totally normal, totally normal. This is why you want to work with a coach or a mentor or someone who's been there before, so that when you go into the freak out, they're like, you're doing great. You're totally fine. And, you're going to learn the practices to ground, to be self-contained. A tree roots deeply. That's what allows it to stabilize. And when it's deeply rooted, it rises taller and taller. And the deeper the roots, the higher it elevates. Same is true for you. So when you have a big expansion, then you're gonna root deep. Okay. So the first year as a filmmaker, I had this big windfall, and then I was scared. So I didn't enroll anyone for 4 months, 3 months. And then I launched my coaching program in September of my first year. And I launched a group program. It was a 4-week class that was taught live. And I think I brought in another 80,000 in the last 4 months of the year. So I was like, wow, I think I can do this. So the second year, I decided I'm not going to take any film projects. I'm going to see if I can replace my filmmaking income with my coaching income. And I did that. So my second year in business, I basically doubled my coaching income. And then the next year, I decided, well, I'm going to see what it's like to have a 6-figure leap in a month. Instead of doing it in a year, I'm going to do it in a month. So then I did it in a month. And that was fun. And that had, its next level requirement that I go into the freak out of, who am I to make this much money in such a short amount of time? And I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm really feeling turned on, and oh my God, I'm too smart, and oh my God, I'm too much, and this isn't going to last. And, you have to go through all of that. And I know I'm not alone in this, which is why I love talking about it, because so many people feel like I'm the only one who goes through these turbulent, up levelings. And
Mm.
an up leveling, think about climbing a mountain. You go up and you stop and you enjoy the view. Or maybe you go
Mm.
down a little bit and then you go up and then you go down a little bit. And then there's a whole bunch of switchbacks. And that's just what we're doing. And so then my next year in business, I thought, okay, I know how to make 6 figures in a year. I know how to make 6 figures in a month. What if I could make 6 figures in a weekend? So then I did that. And then I was like, oh my God, this is so fun. Then I did it again. I did another 6 figures in a weekend. The next year, because the first year I did it, I'm like, again, oh, it's a fluke. It's never going to happen again. So the following year, I did it again. And I had to face that. Is it going to happen again? Was it just a fluke? Do I really have what it takes? And it turns out I do. So I did it again. So then the next year, I'm just playing with time. I'm just playing with energy. I said to myself, what if you do it 4 times a year? So then I did it 4 times a year. And so now I'm just playing with, okay, how about if I do it 8 times a year? How about if I do it every single month? And, each time requires next level expansion, next level identity of I'm the kind of person who shows up consistently, who's grounded, who delivers an incredible amount of value. I'm the kind of person who's a responsible steward with money. I'm the kind of person who contributes generously to causes I care about. I'm the kind of person who's incredibly inspiring and enthusiastic. I'm incredibly consistent. I will never miss my meditation, which is, I'm mainline money. You want to mainline money? Meditate every day.
Wow.
It's really not money. It's the frequency of true wealth, because we're all breathing one envelope of air. There's one envelope of air that surrounds the planet. We're all breathing the same envelope of air. And in that envelope of air, there's something untouchable, something ineffable, that is the consciousness that's in every leaf, it's in every cell, it's in every flower, it's in every fish. I don't know how that works. It's bigger than all of us. Nobody really understands it. And yet we're well aware that there's so much diversity, and growth is the natural biological expression of that creative impulse. It's informing everything. Literally, it is coming into everything and turning it into form, right? The formless, the breath, is becoming my hair, my skin, it grew the plant that makes the shirt I'm wearing. So we're somehow transforming the invisible into the visible.
Mm.
And they say that everything is created twice. I think it was Mary Morrissey who said this, that the first times things are created, they're created as the non-physical, as dream, as intuition, as hunch, as vision, hallucination. Like something comes to you when you're in the shower and you don't know where that came from, but that's brilliant, and you write it down, and then you walk it into the world. So the first time it shows up, it doesn't exist yet in tangible form. And the more you let it move down through you and you actually action it, you start talking about it, you start writing it, you start making the pottery, you start building the house, you use your hands and your throat. Those are your manifestors. You bring it into form, and then you've created something physical out of a non-physical idea. That's exactly how we make money.
Wow. There's so much to unpack, and I got so many takeaways from that. So thank you. I wanted to ask, so like, I just love everything you just said, but I'm curious, when it's something like this, where it is a very personal journey per individual, right? How are you able to, let's say, structure the model that applies to all these unique people? Like, how are you able to scale, but each keeping it very personalized?
So I have two answers to that. I've developed a system that's called the Anatomy of Money system that helps each person look at how their body individually responds to money. When you think about money, and there are 5 kinds of money, and there are lots of different scenarios and visualizations I walk my clients through, where you will get immediate feedback. Your stomach will tie itself into a knot. You'll feel like the weight of the world's on your shoulders. You'll get a headache. You'll feel tingling. You'll hear buzzing. Different ways the body will show you that you're having a nervous system reaction. So in that sense, it's very personal to each person that I work with, because your physiology is yours based on your conditioning and your programming. The second thing that I want to share is that we make our businesses personal, and they're not. And we misidentify that the reality, the 3D reality, is personal. And we totally ignore our relationship with source. And I believe that's upside down. I believe that when we turn our attention to our relationship with our pure potential, when you have a personal relationship with that, that's what you want to have a personal relationship with. And you want to be pretty impersonal. You want to be neutral to what's going on with your clients, with your business. Of course you care about it. Of course you're here to do good. But what I see takes a lot of people out is when a client will be unhappy and they take it personally.
Mm.
And, this happens to everyone. There will be a client who's not happy and they'll project it onto you as if it's your fault. If your conditioning is to assume it's your fault and to take responsibility for how they feel, you have some inner work to do to unpack that codependent conditioning that has led you to believe that you're responsible for how they feel. You're not. They're responsible for how they feel, but they haven't fully owned their self-responsibility. And so they might be angry that they're not receiving results yet, but they're not receiving results yet because they haven't taken actions yet. It's not you that hasn't taken the action. They haven't taken the action that's necessary for them to have the result yet. And the action might be to forgive themselves. It might be to be more compassionate with themselves. It might be to allow themselves to think outside the box and to do it their own way instead of following a cookie cutter that somebody else told them how to do it. And every time they follow somebody else's rules, they discover it doesn't work for them because it's somebody else's rules. They need to find what works for them. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I think that we can fall into the rut of taking things personally. One of the 4 agreements is don't take things personally. And that definitely applies as an entrepreneur. Don't take it so personally, and do develop a personal relationship between you and source, because you are source. The
Mm-hmm.
universe is in you and you are the universe. And when you are personally merged with that, when you personally embrace that and accept that and become that, and you just vibrate in every cell of your being as the pure potential that you are, be personally attached to that. Be
Mm-hmm.
one with that.
Mm-hmm. And it just makes me think of, if you're not taking it personally, and how it is such like of a, it's our own inner work. So you really can't take it personally because it's that person that needs to do their own inner work to get to that result. So it's really out of your hands anyways, like a lot of things are in life. So I think when you're able to separate that, that's what you're saying, I think, and that's what I'm getting from it. So that does make a lot of sense. Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
good.
And if we're constantly chasing, if I need them to get a certain results that I feel good about me, I'm not in control of what actions they take or don't take. I can sit here and say, I want you to email your list once a week, every week from now until you close the doors in your business. How many times do I tell that to my clients? How many times do we tell that to our clients? In any business that you're in, you want to communicate with your clients. You want to show up consistently. You want to add value consistently. You want to be an authority. You want to be fun. You want to be playful. You want to give them something that they're like, wow, I can't wait for that email from her. Because she always gives me something that's, food for thought. I do. If I miss a week, if I'm a day late, my clients, my people on my list, they're not even my clients, they're just readers. They'll reach out to me and they'll say, why didn't I get an email from you this week? Like, they're on me. If
Mhm.
I don't send an email, they're like, where did you go? Or
So
did
cool.
did I fall off your list? And it's really great to have a consistent relationship with your community. Do that.
Mhm.
But, if I tell my clients, I want you to email your list consistently, and they don't do it, and a year later, they're like, I still don't have a list. I'm like, okay, start emailing now. Start putting free content out now. Start going live now. Start doing summits now. Start being on podcasts now. Write your book now. Give your free talks now.
Mhm.
Right?
Yep.
Because all there is now.
Yeah.
All there is now. So, if in the future you want fill in the blank, start now,
Mhm.
because the now moment becomes the next one and the next one and the next one. And before you know it, what you're doing right now is your future. So you can collapse that. You can bring the future into the now moment right now and live your future now.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. It's where it all starts, right? Like you hear that so often where it's like, oh, when this happens, then I'll do that. Where it's like, you could actually just start right now and start building that for yourself. Right. And I just think that's so powerful, and definitely something that I guess entrepreneurs overlook, because like you said, the common norm of what an entrepreneur is doesn't really fit this, but I think this type of work is definitely so, so important. So I could keep going on and hearing you talk, but to try and sum it up and keep it within the 30-40 minutes, for people that really resonate with your message, where can they find you?
I am very easy to find on Google. So you can just Google my name and find me. My website is deborahfryer.com. And I also have a free Facebook group that's called the Anatomy of Money Academy. And for people who would love to learn a little bit more about the neuroscience of tapping, how to train your brain for ease and abundance, I have a free book, and you can just grab the free book. The link will be somewhere on your site, right?
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
called
well,
Turn On Your Tap.
okay, perfect. Well, I hope people listening really took a lot of things away and had a notepad out because I definitely did. So I just want to say thank you so much for sharing some of your wisdom and your experiences with us because I think this type of work will definitely go a long way for a lot of entrepreneurs. So thank you so much.
Thank you.